go ahead.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Marla Billinghurst. I'll be chairing the meeting this morning. I would like to begin by acknowledging that we are in Treaty 1 territory and the traditional homeland of the Métis Nation. As directed by Manitoba Health, we're requesting people avoid close contact with anyone showing symptoms of a respiratory illness, such as coughing or sneezing. If you are experiencing flu-like symptoms, we're requesting that you excuse yourself from the room. Whatever. Okay. Please note, when you join the meeting via Zoom, all participants will be placed in the waiting room and your microphone will be muted until the host lets you in the room. You can follow the hearing live via the City's Board of Revision YouTube channel. As I said, my name is Marla Billinghurst. Sitting on the board with me this morning is Mr. Jeff Peich and Mr. Maurice Therian. The secretary this morning is Ms. Michelle Neepin, and the assessor for the city is Mr. Jamie Fougere. We will be hearing applications for revision of the assessment rule in accordance with the Municipal Assessment Act. The matters for which revision is requested have been described in each application, and we will limit discussion to those matters. The statements that are made at this hearing are sworn testimony, and anyone speaking to the matters must be sworn in. Be advised that comparisons of assessments of properties are not considered evidence of market value by the Board of Revision. The Board of Revision is appointed annually by Council and is independent of it and the City Administration. It makes its decisions on the basis of the evidence provided at this hearing and issues a written order that will be mailed to all parties as soon as possible. Please note that the board's decisions with respect to an application may be appealed to the Manitoba Municipal Board if the matter pertains to assessed value or classification, or to the Court of Queen's Bench if the matter pertains to the application of exemptions from taxation. Should you wish to appeal, information on how to do so will be included with the board's order. With respect to the hearing process, I will confirm the points of appeal with your property to be addressed with each applicant following the swearing in. We will then have the assessor's testimony, followed by questions that the applicant may have, and then the applicant's testimony, followed by questions. Each side will have an opportunity to summarize if they wish. Once all of the evidence about an application has been brought forward, the applicant may leave. The process will repeat for each item on the docket today. The session will close after all the applications have been heard, and the board will deliberate in private and make its decisions. You will receive the board's decision by registered mail as soon as possible. As information, all public hearings are live streamed, recorded, and will be part of the public record, and the use of cell phones is not permitted except by the approval of the chair. Please turn them off. So could you please swear in the parties?
Yes.
Thank you.
Mr. Fougere, we'll start with you.
Sure.
Can you state your full name, please?
Jamie Fougere.
Do you affirm that the evidence you're about to give at this hearing should be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Thank you. Mr. Reimer?
Yes.
Can you state your full name, please?
Terry F. Reimer.
Do you affirm that the evidence you're about to give at this hearing should be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. The first matter on this morning's docket is 865 St. James Street. Mr. Fougere, please proceed when you are ready.
Sure. So the first on the docket, first and only one on the docket is 865 St. James Street. It's the P.F. Chang's restaurant, brand new restaurant that they opened up. I should also read the roll number is 55492. And so here, I wasn't actually able to obtain the lease that's in place. My understanding is that it's a land lease, but I don't really have any details beyond that. So you can see here we've used base ARV per square foot of $33.64. And just to quickly go through my comparables, they range from $29 on Jack Blick. That's about halfway through my comparables here. Up to $41, which is on McPhillips. So if we were to take a kind of closer look at comparable leases that were signed closer to the reference date, all the comparables on my list here, I should mention, are restaurants, and I tried to hone in on the size. This is a larger kind of sit-down, eat-in restaurant, 6,000 square feet. So that was sort of how I targeted it. And so some of the more comparables that I have here that are closer to the reference date would be the first comparable with a rate of $34. The fourth, which is 635 St. James Street, with a rate of $31. And I mentioned Jack Blick has $29. Going down the list, we start getting away from the subject's area, but still similar in size and to the reference date. Comparable number 7 on McPhillips is $41. And then the last comparable signed in 2017 at the Grand Park Mall, we're looking at $30. So we're actually, Mr. Reimer and I have had a chance to discuss beforehand. Unfortunately, we weren't able to come to an agreement. I think we're both sort of within the range. I believe Mr. Reimer's looking for $29, and we're looking for $33.64. So if you look at my comparables, I think we're both within the range, perhaps on different ends of the range, but I think our rate is still supported. And if you look at actually my second comparable, that's 1485 Portage Avenue, Mr. Reimer and I both share this comparable, I've noticed, and that's at $31 a square foot. So as I say, we're both in the range. We feel that there's support for slightly higher end of the range. Again, the first comparable that I have here is nearby, and that's 1412 Ellis, and that's at $34 a square foot. So that's my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Reimer, do you have any questions?
Thanks, Madam Chair. So, Mr. Fougere, we can agree that the reference date for this business assessment is April 1 of 2018.
Correct.
Okay. And you've alluded to the ones signed nearest the reference date. So, with the exception of this one on McPhillips, 1377 McPhillips, which is the fifth from the bottom, that one certainly was near the reference date, but seems to be much higher than the remainder. So the remainder of the ones that were signed in 2017 ranged between $29 and $31 a square foot, other than that high one on McPhillips, correct?
That's true. If you open the window just a little bit more and look at 2016 as well, I do think there is some value in considering the first comparable on my list as well. I do grant that it is not as recent as the other ones that you've mentioned, but I believe that should be considered as well.
But we can agree it's January 16th. It's significantly earlier than the 2017 comparables relative to the reference date, correct? It's about a year and a half earlier.
Right.
Okay. So, and in terms of location, then the now your third comparable, 656 St. James Street, that was negotiated in December 2003. So I'm that's well off the reference date. I'm going to, I trust we agree that is significantly off the reference date. But in terms of the second comparable, which is 1485, so 1485 Portage, just to be clear, that's Polo Park Shopping Center, correct? That's
a pad site at Polo Park. That's right.
Right. So
And,
it's on the shopping center. Yeah. Yeah. And
Right.
and then 635 St. James Street, notwithstanding that address, when I searched that up, that is also on the Polo Park Shopping Center site, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. And similarly with 1440 Jack Blick, that's on the shopping center site towards that would be the north end of the mall, correct?
Yeah, the Jack Blick building, I would suggest, is not that different from the subject.
Okay.
I can agree with you that the visibility and accessibility of the first two that you mentioned that are at Polo Park would be greater than the subject. I'm not sure that I necessarily would think that the Jack Blick location would be greater than the subject per se.
Okay, but that is part, when I searched the address 1440 Jack Blick, it returned, of course, 1485 Portage, because it's part of the larger roll number. That's what's the mall.
Right.
And it's at, if I understand, or if I have my information right, this is actually at the north end of the mall proper, so it would be just to the south of what was the original Target site, correct? Like it's just right in that. Okay, yeah.
Right,
yeah.
and for reference as well, the subject is in the parking lot of that Target that you just mentioned.
Right, it's at the corner of St. Matthew's and St. James, correct?
Right. So yeah. we're quite close by, I think.
Okay.
And this area is seeing more and more development as well. And I think there's some lands to the south and to the east that will be developed commercially soon.
All right, then. Madam Chair, those are my questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Pike, do you have any questions?
How close is the 1412 Ellis property to the subject property? Is it right around the corner?
Yeah, so the 1412 Ellis is basically, so if you were to kind of think, we have towards the south along Portage Avenue, we have a couple of the pad site restaurants that Mr. Reimer has referenced. And then as you go north, then there's the Polo Park Shopping Mall, and then past that is Jack Blick. And then beyond that is the PF Chang's and the Target site, which is the subject. And then just beyond that, I believe there may be a building between or a roll number between, but then beyond that is the site with 1412 Ellis. So it's quite close by. For reference, if you recall where the McDonald's is on Ellis or the Starbucks, it's right in there in that development.
Okay. And are these properties, the 1412 Ellis, the 695 St. James, 1440 Jack Blick, are those properties that you've seen the lease agreements, or these are just the reported? It's what's been reported to us through the income and expense questionnaire, and I don't know that they've been challenged per se on. Full disclosure, the 656 St. James that we have as 2003, there are some details with that lease that we may not fully be informed of. We have a rate of $40.37. So we're not really relying heavily on that particular comparable, but that is one that I know that there's been questions regarding the percentage rents on. Okay, thank you. I have no other questions.
Thank you very much. Mr. Terrian, do you have any questions?
Yeah, I think I have one. So, Jamie, you mentioned in your presentation that 1412 Ellis, 635 St. James, and 1440 Jack Blick were basically the closer comparison. Is that correct?
Yeah, closer, and I feel maybe most appropriate in terms of sort of the quality and the nature of the restaurant, as well as its relation to the surrounding retail. Those I feel, similar size, closer to the reference date generally. And like I say, a similar quality of sit down kind of family style restaurant eating. And they're also relatively new as well.
So yeah, you did mention that this was recently built. What year was this built? This property? You have that?
Yeah. So yeah. So the subject opened, I believe it was December 9th or so, early to mid December 2020 is my, sorry. Actually, Mr. Reimer may be able to help with that. Is it?
I thought it was 2019, December 19th.
Yeah, sorry, 2019. I apologize. 2019. Yeah, so construction would have been completed around that time.
Okay, that's all, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and I do not have any questions. So, Mr. Reimer, you can proceed with your presentation when you're ready.
All right, thanks, Madam Chair. So if board members and Mr. Fougere, if you could have my submission open in Adobe, and going to page 2 of that submission there, you see the photo, and this is, as Mr. Fougere pointed out, this is the P.F. Chang's located at 865 St. James Street. So it's actually at the southeast corner of St. James and Street and St. Matthews Avenue. And the request this morning is to reduce the 2021 business assessment from $225,000 to $196,080. No dispute as to the nature of the premise. It's a P.F. Chang's restaurant. The premise area is 6,235 square feet. And I can confirm that the improvements were completed in December of 2019. So if I could cut to the chase then, please, and if the parties could turn to page 5 of my materials. And that is at the top of page 5, you'll see the lease comparables that I'm suggesting that the board consider this morning. And so the comparables number 1 and 3, these are smaller franchise chain restaurants. So these are chain restaurants as well, smaller granted, but located to the immediate west of the subject. And therefore I thought they were very important in terms of some of the barometers for restaurant space. They're a bit of a different animal, but certainly very negotiated near the reference date, and also in very, very close proximity. They're also significantly smaller than this subject. Index number 2 is as Mr. Fougere pointed out, we both have the same information for this lease. This is one of the standalone restaurants at Polo Park Shopping Center. And then index number 4 is located to the immediate west of Polo Park Shopping Center. It's also a sit-down restaurant of similar size to the subject. Now, that lease was negotiated, originally negotiated in 2007, and there were a series of step-ups. And so the $25 rate that you see there is actually a stepped-up rate based on a step that started in August 1st of 13 to July 31st of 18. So for a 5-year term, that was the stepped rate at $25 a foot. So the the range that we're providing is between $25 and $34. I remain convinced, and having gone through and had the chance to speak with Mr. Fougere and having gone through Mr. Fougere's evidence, I believe actually the best evidence of both parties fully support a rate in the $29 to $31 range. Of the four comparables that I've provided to this board, certainly two are within stone's throw of the subject, but probably the single best comparable given the quality and size would be my index number 2 at $31 a square foot. And this, if I might remind the board, is entirely consistent with, and I believe fully supported by the department's comparables, recalling that the two comparables negotiated in 2017 in the immediate area as well, actually at Polo Park, were at $29 and $31 a foot, and then a further comparable, that same comparable that I've used at $31 a square foot for the third comparable at Polo Park. So I'm going to suggest that the request that I have this morning is based upon a rate of $29 a square foot. If the board, given the totality of the evidence, if the board were inclined to order a rate that was at $31 a square foot, I can tell you that that would certainly, in my view, make sense as well. It's fully supported with the comparables of both parties, and so the request is at $29 a square foot, which results in an ARV of $196,080. But in the alternative, we would suggest, based on the totality of the evidence, that a $31 rate per square foot would also be reasonable. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Fougere, do you have any questions?
And just to be clear, Mr. Reimer, your best comparable, would you say that that's index number 2?
Yes. As far as size and type of restaurant, yes, I would indeed.
Okay. Thank you. Those are my questions.
Thank you very much. Mr. Peich, any questions?
Mr. Reimer, have you done the math on 31 per square foot? What does that leave us in terms of ARV?
I have, in fact, and I should have been prepared for that. Let me have a moment, Madam Chair, and I will get that number precisely.
Thank you very much.
And I'll just give the total number, including occupancy costs, which the occupancy costs obviously are not in dispute. Mr. Fougere, if you have a concern with the number that I'm calculating, let me know, but I'm sure it will be accurate. That would be 208,560.
Yeah, that's what I got as well.
That's what I have as well. I have no other questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Terrien, do you have any questions?
Oh, I have no questions. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay, and I have no questions. So does either party have the need for a summary?
I certainly do not.
I don't think so.
I want to thank Mr. Fougere for his time leading up to this hearing as well. I appreciate it.
As well, Mr. Reimer as well. I would like to thank him as well.
Okay, well, thank you very much for your time, gentlemen, and leave it with us, and you will receive our decision in due course. Thank you.
Have a good day.
Thank you, guys.
Bye.
Yeah.